The host is not in the meeting yet.
Hello?
Doris?
Yes,
Are you there?
can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Okay, so are you in town or are you out of town?
I'm in.
You're in town, okay, so Dr. Moffitt wants to schedule an MRI for tomorrow.
Okay, the problem was is I couldn't get in for the blood test before then.
Well,
That's why
but
they were gonna do it today, but I had to do it at 6 o'clock, and I just couldn't make it.
they were gonna do what?
They were gonna do the blood test at 6 o'clock, and then they were gonna, oh, you're doing an MRI. They were gonna remove the port.
No, we want to do an MRI of the head.
Okay. What time?
Well, we gotta try to get that scheduled tomorrow.
Okay.
So I'm gonna have one of our schedulers reach out to you tomorrow and we'll get that scheduled for you, okay?
Okay.
Things are a little bit challenging right now with scheduling because of COVID, but
Yeah.
we're gonna
and
do the
then
best we
leaving
can.
Town.
When are you leaving?
I'm leaving Saturday evening.
Okay. Okay. Well, we're gonna try to get that scheduled. If your symptoms end up getting worse, worse, you have to go to the ER, okay?
Okay. I've got a granddaughter here and my son is.
Okay, if that starts to get worse, I want you to go straight to the ER.
Okay.
Otherwise, we'll call you tomorrow.
And which ER do I go
Go to the community,
to? Okay.
okay?
I'm not sure where the ER is there. Is it by the where they eat?
Yeah, you'll see the signs when you pull up to the roundabout. It'll direct you to the ER.
Okay.
Okay.
Okie doke.
All right, Doris.
Thank you.
No problem. Bye bye.
Thank you. We want to welcome you all this evening, and we're so excited to see so many participants. I would like to, at this point, hand off our presentation to our area administrator, Mr. Robert Perez.
Annette,
Yes.
recording in progress.
Okay, good evening. Hi, my name is Robert Perez, and I am an area administrator in the Central Unified School District. And I would like to welcome you to our town hall event featuring information and conversation about our next round of federal funding known as ESSER III. I want to remind you that this meeting is being recorded. So school districts will soon be receiving funding from Elementary Secondary School Emergency Relief III Fund, or otherwise known as ESSER. This funding falls under the American Rescue Plan Act, and in accordance with all other funding sources in the ARP, districts are required to create an ESSER expenditure plan to guide the use of the money granted. It specifically addresses academic, social emotional, mental health, and opportunity gaps. In our current plan, otherwise known as Local Control Accountability Plan, or LCAP, this is a 3-year overarching plan addressing the needs of all students. Additional funding for unduplicated students like foster, EL, homeless, and low income. And it was approved in 2021. Another current plan is the Expanded Learning Opportunities Grant. This was a state funding one-time grant. It provides supplemental funds for student supporting needs needed for academic, social, emotional, and any other supports as needed. This was also approved in 2021. Now our ESSER III expenditure plan it requires 20% of spending must go to help address unfinished learning. Academic intervention must be evidence-based. And the remaining funds must be used consistent with the American Rescue Plan ARP Act, which consists of response to COVID-19, educational technology, mental health and/or behavioral supports, after school, extended day, or summer school facility, and lastly, facilities. And this is what we're here to plan for tonight. Thanks again for joining us. So this is the part where we're going to collect feedback from our participants in the 3 areas. Like we said previously, continuing safe school in-person learning, addressing unfinished learning, which is required for at least 20% of the funding, and the remaining funds, what is most important to you. We will be taking a poll. It should come up shortly.
You should be able to see the poll here coming up now. Okay, so we're going to go through these one item at a time, and Mr. Perez will read them off, and then he'll let you know when you can go ahead and vote on the items that you feel are most important.
Okay. So
Go ahead and read number 1 off.
Okay, can they see the poll?
Yes.
Okay, so the first one is, when we think of being safe for in-person learning, what do you think is the most important thing to consider? You choose one choice. More health staff, social emotional supports counselors, academic counselors, upgrade HVAC, or PPE materials. So you can vote on one.
Yes. We have over 100 participants, so we should see voting starting to happen on item 1 of the.
Can you explain what PPE is?
Personal protection materials like the masks and gloves and cleaning materials for deep cleaning. The stickers, the plexiglass, things like that give you barriers from catching COVID-19.
What's HVAC stand for?
Those are the ventilation systems. Like, so the air filters, things like that.
Got it. Can we pick more than one?
We're trying to prioritize. So at this point, you pick one on the poll. If you would like to put a second choice, you can put it into the chat, because we will save the chat.
And there's no other, like, any suggestions we just put on the comments if we have any?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, on the chat. The chat will be recorded.
Before voting on the HVAC system, what's the current filtration system on that? Is that MERV 13, MERV 14? What are we looking at?
I have no idea. My first inclination would be to tell you it varies by site, but I know upgrades have taken place during school closure. So that would be a question to put in the chat. And we do plan on posting frequently asked questions once we've gathered all the data.
Are we voting via the chat?
No, you're voting in the poll that we just put up.
In the poll, okay.
Yeah, the poll
What
should
is
come up as a
more
pop-up.
health staff?
I didn't hear what you said, sir. You said the poll
One
what?
participant at a time, please. Say it again.
I had asked, how are we polling? and he said there was an answer that started, but I couldn't hear because it was interrupted. If you could repeat that, sir.
Sorry, the poll actually is a pop-up in the middle of the Zoom, so it should be a second box or window open.
Okay, thank you.
Can someone please explain what more health staff means?
That would be support. That would be support in our health offices at each site.
Are we talking about LVNs and RNs?
It could include that.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, there's definitely more than one right answer here, so I'm really feeling the need to pick more than one answer.
Please, yeah, you can, and you can also add comments into the chat. The chat is being recorded. So if you do want to pick one, go ahead and put something in the chat as well.
And also, my choices went away on the screen, so I don't know how I get that back, but the little survey that went up on the screen went away.
When the survey's over, we'll post the results and you'll be able to see where.
No,
once-
me,
Once you
I didn't
click
get
on
a-
it,
I didn't get a chance to vote. It just went away off my screen.
Yes, me too.
Mr. Horstman, do you have any idea why that would happen?
The only thing I can think is if the window might be, if you're on a computer, it might be open behind the Zoom, or if you're on a phone. Shoot, I don't know.
Did you guys set the survey with a time limit?
No, it's still up. It's still calculating. I'm watching it now.
If you're on a phone, there's an option on the bottom with 3 dots. If you click on that, it'll give you an option for the poll.
That is correct. I just found it. Thank you.
Okay, good.
You guys
Thank
are
you.
brilliant.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, parent tech support.
Okay, we're pretty close.
Okay, we'll give another.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I was gonna say, yeah, we're pretty close to finishing question 1. We can move on to question 2.
Yeah, and even if we move on, you can still go in and vote on any of the 3 questions. So if you haven't decided yet, you can still do that. And remember, don't feel limited to just one choice. You can always type into the chat.
Okay,
So question number 2, Mr. Perez.
Yeah, to address unfinished learning, what do you think is the most important area to consider? And your options are summer school, longer school day during the regular school year, extra learning during winter break or spring break, after school programs, or longer school year, same day length, more days for the year. Okay, give it another minute and then we'll move on to the third question. Okay, and our third question is remaining funds. What is the most important to you? Response to COVID-19, to the equipment, additional staffing, transportation. And their choices are educational technology, continued upkeep and outreach, mental health, behavior support staff, facilities, which would be update, renovate, and improve safety. And the last one is unfinished learning, additional funds to 20% requirement to help students close learning gaps.
I have a question on the first one. Where it says, let me see, in the PPE materials, would that include too, like having on-site COVID tests for the kids that are getting sick?
Yes, it could incorporate all of those things.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything that has to do with the prevention of spread or increased numbers of COVID-19. Any kind of protection devices or contact tracing, all of that stuff. I have a question in the chat about how we came to these categories. These are directly from the guidance in the grant. And they are each fitting into different areas that is an allowable expense on the grant. So they tell us the types of areas that we can spend the grant money on. I think I have a raised hand. Let me look at my participants. Gustavo, did you want to unmute and tell us what your question might be?
Yeah, I wanted to ask about the PPE too. I wanted to ask what did that incorporate? Did it incorporate plexiglass or you know, separation between the students or something?
Yep, it could be any of those things. It could be additional furniture to encourage social distancing. It can be anything to do with tracking, tracing, and preventing COVID-19, up to and including CDC guidance.
And who sets the, you know, the list for all those things?
Those lists are derived. We get information from the county about what and how to do that. The Department of Fresno County Department of Schools.
And I had one more question on number 3. It says that we can use that extra money for the facilities. I know there's already some remodeling plans for certain schools. Will that money just go to finishing those plans? Like my student goes to Polk, and I know Polk is online for certain remodeling. Will that money go towards that, or it will be for new projects?
It would be for, it could only be used for projects that we could tie somehow directly toward repairing and resetting back to pre-COVID-19, or things that would improve safety to prevent COVID-19.
So like maybe acquiring more portable classrooms, that wouldn't be part of it, to, you know, to minimize the student size?
I'm not saying no. It would probably depend on how strong of input we had from our community and how we were able to write that to a strategy in the plan.
Okay, thank you.
And it would be something that we would have to get the county's approval on as well. We don't just write the plan and then get it approved. The county has to give us input on it as well. So they would tell us ultimately if that was an appropriate expenditure.
Okay, thank you.
I think I have another hand raised. I wonder why I can't see them here. Hang on, who's raised their hand? Try Hair Cole.
Hi, thank you. I have two students at River Bluff. So I had a little issue with the options as well. I think I have the same concern as the parent who just spoke regarding the reduction in class size. 36 students in a portable is really not safe. And it's just impossible to not contract something just because of the size. But also, I didn't see an option for continued distance learning either. The live instruction distance learning for those students who are quarantined or who have system, if there's an option to be able to include a continued distance.
I don't know that exact answer right now. I know that it's not one specifically mentioned in the grant guidance that I have looked at so far, but I would encourage you to put that into the chat, and it has been recorded live here as well. And so we will factor that into the feedback. And then Jesse Farias has his hand up. Jesse?
Yes, I was just, sorry, I was trying to unmute here. So I So to piggyback that question from the previous parent, yeah. So that's my question regarding educational technology, because does Central Unified currently have technology to assist teachers or support staff to help with the quarantine students that have been asked to quarantine due to exposure?
We do, but as you know, with all things, technology requires upkeep and maintenance. So that's more where this particular strategy and action would target. In addition, remember in the Expanded Learning Opportunities Grant that we approved in the fall, that was a state-based grant, we have one of our actions in there is creating community hubs where the community could come in and use technology. And so we would then be, by aligning those two plans, as Mr. Perez mentioned earlier in the presentation, that would be able to go for the sustainability and upkeep of the community hubs as well. So it could be all of those things.
Okay, but mine specifically towards teacher and support to help students in the classroom that have been asked to quarantine. Our classrooms set up to assist teachers if needed to do simultaneous instruction or hybrid instruction.
To the best of my knowledge, they are currently, because we were doing hybrid instruction all last spring before we went to return to in person. Okay. But that doesn't mean that stuff that hasn't been used frequently over time won't need replacing.
Got it. Okay.
Okay.
So
it's wear and tear on student devices and teacher devices.
Correct. So educational technology, that's what it's meant to. These additional funds could be meant to use to keep.
Yes, it's sustaining the programs we already have in place, and then if we have an identified need to grow the technology, we would have money earmarked for that.
Earmarked for it. Okay, that's what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's see if I can see any other hands up. MA. Who's MA?
Yes, hi. I have a question. If part of the grant, if there is any vaccination available in school for eligible students, maybe those that have difficulty in getting it, just wondering.
That's an excellent question to ask, and so I would encourage you to put that in the chat. And when we're done with our stakeholder input, we will factor that into our frequently asked questions and get you an answer to that.
Would love you. I would love it. Thank you.
No problem. Just make sure you put it in the chat.
Yes.
Hawaii.
Yes. Who's in charge? The person in charge of these questions, or who's approving all this?
Not sure I understand what you mean. Tell me more.
Well, you said that they put together these questions, and you guys are actually providing us to us. Who's doing this? Who's the person in charge of this? The ones that's putting together these questions. That's
The questions are directly taken from the guidance that's given to us by the federal government about what's appropriate to spend the money on.
Perfect. Do you know the person in charge of the federal government that's putting this together?
Of the federal government?
Yeah.
Well, that would ultimately be our state superintendent of schools and the public, the director of education department. I'm not sure what you're asking.
Well, this came from somewhere. Who brought it in? The government? Which department? Which office? Or which person? Or
the guidance that we receive is from California Department of Education.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I have a question really quick. Is this your interpretation of the guidelines, or are these the exact options that were provided in the guidelines?
This is user friendly language from the guidance. If we had typed out everything that was in the guidance, the poll would be like 12 pages long.
Is there some place we can find this guidance if we wanted to say read all 12 pages?
Certainly, there's a template available of the expenditure plan on CDE's webpage.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Hang on, I'm trying to scroll through the hands that are up. Did we answer your question?
I just had one more question. I'm curious if any of these priorities that were listed today with the options are reflective of the parent survey that went out towards the end of last year before the in-person school started. I'm just curious if they're reflective at all, if they took into consideration what the parents submitted in the surveys.
There is some overlap between the expanded learning opportunities grant information and LCAP information that we gathered. But the wording from the federal government's a little different than the other two plans, which were state plans. But we are allowed, the good news is we are allowed to use the input that we gathered in those surveys in considering the options for spending this grant as well. So it's not like that information is not just going to go away one and done. We still take all of that stakeholder input we did last spring into account.
So will you be returning back to parents and students with final recommendations before they go to before the school board for approval?
It will and the same timeline of when it goes up for information before it's approved. It'll also be available for public comment. So yes, you will see. What happens is we collate the data from all of the different stakeholder input and surveys that are going out in the next 10 days or so. And then we meet together as a team in Ed Services, and we put together the best plan that we can with the money that's available and the stakeholder input we have, and then it's up for public comment. So it's a draft. It's by no means finalized till the board approves it. Tracy Phillips has her hand up.
Yes, I was looking at this and it says remaining funds. What are we talking about remaining funds? Like, what's the ballpark of the amount that they're gonna have remaining funds?
The grant itself is not finalized, but the preliminary numbers all totaled. Now, they don't release it all at once. It's over the period between now and September of 2024. We are eligible for up to almost $40 million. But I caution you saying that, don't hang your hat on that number because it changes because they disperse it in budgetary allowances. So it doesn't all come at once, and the numbers vary as different school districts spend the money or not. So it changes. Best guess is the first allocation we get will be around, if I remember correctly, don't hold me to it, will be about 10 million.
Oh boy. Okay. Thank you.
Look on the last board agenda had our best guess in the financial impact when we presented this for information.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Gustavo.
Yeah, I had another question. So $10 million, is that enough to build more classrooms? I mean, what is $10 million really accomplish? I mean,
well, $10 million is a lot of change as far as how far it would go.
But for the whole school district, we have a lot of schools.
I understand. This grant is not intended to build new classrooms for every school site in our district. It's intended to mitigate the effects of COVID-19.
Okay.
And so it's not a facilities grant per se.
So we still got Measure C and other.
Yeah. That's more appropriate funding rather than something like this.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Scrolling through, Tracy Phillips.
Sorry, it still had my hand up. I was done with my question, but thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll lower that. Stephanie's iPhone.
So still think that we are.
Hi, sorry, I was trying to figure out how to unmute. Yes, I just had more of just a comment. I wanted to thank all the teachers and staff and everybody just having to deal with all this, and they're just doing an amazing job, and just wanted to let them know I appreciate all of them, including you guys.
Well stated. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you.
I'm just scrolling real quickly, Mr. Perez, to make sure we don't have. Says I have two in. Maybe if I click on that. All right, not seeing any further.
Rania is raising her hand.
Rania is raising her hand. I didn't know she could raise her hand. Hold on, I'm scrolling. Maximize it, see if that helps. Still waiting, be patient. This is a yes. Okay, hold on. I'm not seeing Rania at all. Did she log off? All right.
Annette, maybe because you have Rania as an interpreter, maybe you need to let it come to the room. I don't know.
If I take her out of the room, I have to take them all out. So ask her to text her question to you.
I see. Yeah, Ranya's still in the
Okay.
interpreter room.
Yeah, that must be why I can't see it. So yes, ask her to put it in chat or if it's personal to text it to you and you can let me know. I'll check my phone. Okay.
I cannot see Ranya's chats. So I don't know because she says
Or
that
text you, Nora. Text her.
yes, but she's doing it on the chat and I don't have access to that.
Okay, well, I'm not seeing her anywhere, so I'm going to have to proceed. Let's see here.
Nora, are you able just to text her?
Yes, I already put it on the text group. So
Okay,
she's
thank you.
texting right now.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right.
I've got all the questions.
It looks like
Kimberly?
there's one more
Let me
hand
just-
up.
Let me just make sure that the interpreters have had time to go through everything they've needed to. Okay, it looks like we have 100% participation of enrolled candidates or participants in the poll is what the, most of them. Question 1 is done. Let's see, let me look at number 2. So in question 2, to address unfinished learning, what do you think is the most important areas to consider? Currently, after school programs is leading, but you can still vote on that one. Question 2, how to improve and address unfinished learning. In other words, anything that occurred or was exacerbated by COVID-19 and school closures. And then finally, question 3, with the remaining funds, meaning after we do the minimum 20% set aside for unfinished learning, what's most important to you? Educational technology, mental health and behavioral support, facilities, and unfinished learning. Because remember that unfinished learning is a minimum amount. We can always put more money toward that or earmark more money toward that. Then you have facilities in there as well.
Just a reminder, Annette, we can't see the poll results until it's closed.
I know. I was just trying to encourage a little bit more voting. We've got some questions that were a little light. It looks like folks just kind of skipped, might have missed 1 or 2. I was just trying to make sure.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to end the poll now. It looks like we've got. Okay, now I'm going to share the results. Mr.
Okay.
Perez, you can read off the results. Start with
All
question
right.
1.
Thank you so much. We'll start with the first one. When we think of being safe for in-person learning, what do we think is the most important thing to consider? It looks like our top choice was more health staff with 32%. And then coming in second was upgrade HVAC. Third with 21% would be PPE materials. Then coming in fourth will be social emotional support / counselors. And coming in at 7% is academic counselors. Our second question, to address unfinished learning, what do you think is the most important area to consider? With 40% of the votes is after school programs. 21% is summer school. 16%.
I think that we need.
I'm sorry,
16%.
Nora, can you just text your comments and let me know what you need?
16% is extra learning during winter break or spring break. And with 13% is longer school year, which would be the same day length, just more days for the year. And then coming in at 10% is longer school day during the regular school year. And I want to remind you, you can still include comments into the chat. Our third and final question is remaining funds. What is the most important to you? Response to COVID-19 with 41% is unfinished learning, adding additional funds to the 20% requirement to help students close learning gaps. Then we have 24% is facilities, upgrades, renovate, and improve for safety. At 19%, we have mental health / behavioral support staff. And finally, at 16%, we have educational technology, continue upkeep and outreach.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Perez.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm gonna give about another 30 seconds for comments in the chat. Mrs. Chamberlain?
Thank you. So as with all things Central Unified, this is not a one and done. You can always attend meetings that we have scheduled next week. In addition, all staff will receive and students will receive a survey, a Survey Monkey survey that will go out. And so you have a chance to participate there as well. And anything that you feel like you didn't have a chance to say tonight or didn't think of tonight, we're always open to additional input. You can email Mr. Perez or myself or Mrs. Ceballos, and we'll be happy to factor in your input to the overall compilation of stakeholder input while we're there. And again, you do have chances to participate. Again, 2 more meetings next week, 9 o'clock and 6 o'clock p.m. We'll be doing the same process via Zoom. And have the same polling questions there, the same ability to ask questions and to put your comments in the chat. And there's no guarantee we'll know the answers to all of your questions, but we will certainly do the best we can. And those we cannot answer, we will include in our frequently asked questions that will be published at the same time as public comment will open on the document. So we're still getting a lot of participation in chat, so let me leave it open for just a few more minutes. And again, we appreciate your time and your input this time. And we know that not everything in technology on Zoom these days is perfect. We learn something every time we do these meetings. And so we want to make sure that we're hearing you and we're doing the very best. I promise you, every time we do this meeting, it's better. So Mr. Perez is at the top of the list right now. Okay. If you need to go and finish getting ready for dinner or taking care of your kids or doing homework, we thank you for your time and you're free to leave. If you want to stay and comment, I will keep this open until I don't see any more comments popping in. Mr. Perez, do you have any other finishing comments, or Mrs. Ceballos?
No, I just want to say thank you for joining us this evening. I know your input is always important. It's critical that we do get input from all stakeholders. And do want to just, like Mrs. Chamberlain said, if you have any further questions, do not hesitate to email me. And I want to invite everybody to the board meetings on October 12th and the 26th. So I think that's it. And thank you all. Thank you to our staff here for putting this on. And once again, everybody have a great night and appreciate you joining us this evening.
ya tiene unas, pero que no las ha conocido y ya le dijeron que mejor lo ven en el partido, que no van a venir a practicar, ya lo ven en el... O niños nuevas, no las ha conocido. Ahora hoy está que, oh, no, mejor nos vemos ahí. Dices, no, si no van a practicar. Pero ¿cómo? ¿Sí saben? Pues les digo, espero que sepan, pues aunque sepan.
Okay, I see a hand up still. John Penner, are you still there? Oh, I'm sorry, John Pepper. My glasses are bad. Mr. Pepper, I apologize. I got your name wrong. Are you still here?
Yes, I'm here. Actually, my daughter, Olivia Pepper, 5th grader at Liddell, would like to say something, and suggestion for additional funds spending.
Fabulous.
Go
And
ahead,
tell her
Aura.
to look for a survey that'll be going out soon too. Go
Perfect,
ahead.
thank you.
My name is Olivia Pepper. I'm a 5th grader from Liddell Elementary School. In the 4th, 5th, and 6th graders, we do not have any playgrounds or gym like equipment, and all the younger graders do. I think that is unfair because as we get older, we get unmotivated to work out. And I was thinking, instead of having our playground as an example, in Woodward Park, we have little pull-up bars and fun gym equipment. I was thinking as a suggestion that those would be fun and educational to us upper graders in our yard. We also have a bunch of grass space. We utilize that grass space, and we do not want all of that to be taken away because we have fun with it. But as I was saying, as we get older, we get unmotivated to work out. During PE, we don't have pull-up bars or sit-ups or any of that stuff. The pull-up bars and all that stuff can be utilized during PE and during our recess, our lunch and snack recess.
Well, thank you for that comment, and it is recorded on our meeting tonight, and so it will certainly go down into our stakeholder input, and thank you for taking the time to participate.
Thank you.
Do we have any other hands up?
Yes, Annette, we have Yaskit Kaur.
Okay.
Hi, thank you. I wasn't sure if I was able to just unmute. I did drop my public comment in the chat, but was hoping I could relay it verbally too if there's time.
Oh, of course.
Okay, yeah. So my name is Jaskit Kaur. I am a CSUD resident, lived in the district my whole life. I have multiple family members in the elementary, middle, high school level, including in my own household. So I was just, wanted to flag that it's imperative that ESSER funding is allocated towards after school programs. I went to an after school program myself at Rio Vista, and it really drastically changed my social life. But I do think that this funding could take it beyond just a study hall after school, while I wait for my parents to pick me up. Others might express with you, students are experiencing lots of social anxiety coming back into in-person learning, and they don't have the adequate resources at home to complete their homework, coming from immigrant families. So I've also talked to parents just within the Punjabi community, and they've expressed this concern of the learning loss throughout the virtual year, not being able to help their own children with school as well. So just wanted to say that this is a demand from all around the spectrum, and I'm glad to see that voters agree with me. The second thing before I hop off is just that the Zoom link today was incredibly hard to type in. I think if my lesser tech savvy family members were to join today, it would have been a lot harder. And I know that YouTube is an option, but if we could opt for easier Zoom links in the future, that would be highly appreciated just for those who already have difficulty, functioning technology. So thank you for your time.
I appreciate that comment, and we did run into technical difficulties between Zoom not translating into Parent Square. And so we found that out at this morning's meeting, and we're still working on it. That was the quickest, most effective fix we had, but we'll keep working on it, and we hear you.
Thank you. One more thing, the interpretation for Punjabi was not popping up at first, so my family wasn't able to receive that. Though we did get it throughout the meeting, just wanted to flag that as well if we could.
Okay. So was the room not available, or you just couldn't hear it?
I couldn't hear it until about 5 minutes into the meeting.
Okay. I appreciate that, and I apologize, and we will do better next time. So encourage family members that can to join us again. And as always, you can call that hotline for further clarifications, the Punjabi hotline, for questions and answers of anything you might have missed. And you will be able to view this on YouTube later today, or once our tech staff gets it up, not today. They have to go home and eat dinner too. But this will be on YouTube, so you can rewatch it again and let us know if you have additional questions or input.
Thanks, Annette.
But again, apologies. Any other hands up, Nora?
Angel is raising his.
Angel?
Yeah. Hi. I don't know if you can hear me. I hope you can.
I can.
Sorry for being. I had other commitments, and I'm trying to get in here. So I don't know if this question was raised or recommendation. My son, as well as other friends in the community, in the school, and from Central, were sent home due to COVID. Right? You're asking about COVID resources. How do you go ahead and go about that? One thing that we experienced that was kind of frustrating is they were sent home and not real direction on continuing education. What do you do when you're at home if there's a potential exposure? So we called the school. School said, hey, you know what? If they're out more than whatever the days were, 10, 14 days, then paper packets will be sent home. One of the teachers, and I can't remember, forgive me, my wife takes care of all the schooling, but one thing that that teacher took the initiative to create a Zoom class for the students, and for them to have that continuing ongoing education for that whole class that was sent home. Ideally, I know we're back into in-person, which is kind of challenging, especially for elementary schools where most, if not all students, actually all students are not vaccinated. So there's a lot of potential exposure, a lot of students being sent home, but yet the continuing education, who's going to teach them those lessons, who's going to do all that, a paper packet being sent home, it's really, I don't think it's the right answer. I think if you and the schools can coordinate to get into Zoom classes for those students that are being sent home to quarantine due to exposure, and providing those resources, whether it's hotspots, whether it's laptops, whether it's whatever way they can communicate and continue to learn. Let it be a hybrid model, right? If there's exposure, great, send them home, quarantine 10 days, no symptoms or whatever the protocols are, but give them that opportunity to continue to have that education one-on-one. The experience that we had with our school and the teacher that took it upon that initiative to have that Zoom class made it actually better for my son and their classmates. So that's my recommendation to you guys. Again, apologize if it's been brought up. But I think going to a hybrid model when there is potential exposure or is exposure in the classroom, you guys should exercise that and have a continuing education for the students that are being sent home.
Okay, thank you for that comment, and well spoken. And we will certainly factor that in. Mr. Perez, did you have anything to add to that?
No, I think we agree with that. Education should always continue, even if a student is sent home. So I know things are being worked on currently. So to provide this education, we do not want the learning to stop for any student, regardless if they are either at home on quarantine or, or even COVID positive.
Right. Thank you.
I'm not seeing any other hands up. All right. I think perhaps, Mr. Perez, we can go ahead and wrap it up. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think we've captured a lot of great comments, and I think we had amazing participation in our survey. So I want to remind everybody that we do have the board meetings coming up to join us, and I want to thank everybody once again for joining us tonight.
Thank you. You all have a great evening.
Thank you.